Hey guys, it's Seneca the Youngest, and today we're gonna be reacting to this article, "We Shouldn't Want to Eat Like Our Great-Great-Grandparents." This article is pretty freaking bad, and I just want to review it, and obviously it's saying we shouldn't eat like our great-great-grandparents, which I think we should, and much more. I think we should eat more like our ancestors, and here we have a photo of some pears, apples, bread, this stuff is whole foods, but that's processed, whatever. And I'm not just going to be debunking all the health claims in this article, but I'm also going to be, debunking kind of where these health claims come from and who would want to pay people to say stuff like this. So let's get straight into it. And the original title to this article was, I think it was called "Industrial Ultra Processed Food is Fine" or okay or something like that. You can see these are the names of the authors, and they're selling a book basically. So feed the people why industrial food is good. I don't care about that. I hope industrial food's not good for the planet, the humans, and people themselves. And these people, I've done a little bit of research on these authors and where they come from, and they are prominent people at Breakthrough Institute. And Breakthrough Institute is this institute of people, like-minded people that think they're kind of eco-modernists. So they think that the only way to make the earth better or to make people healthier, basically just putting more money into their pockets. So they believe that they need to make the world more modern and more industrial, and they need to make farming more industrial, and that's how they can feed more people, and that's how it can be healthy. Breakthrough Institute is actually funded by Bill Gates as well, and a bunch of other billionaires. So Bill Gates, the one thing I know of, at least I did a little bit of research, Bill Gates donated $1.7 million to Breakthrough Institute. He probably donated more, but it's just that we don't know. Nobody cares enough to actually say. You can see where these people came from. They definitely have a bias towards industrial food, so this is not going to be an unbiased article. Since it is a guest essay, you need to pay like $2,500 or even more, and you need powerful ties to get into this position. Okay, let's read it. Between the social media influencers extolling the benefits of local, organic, and natural food, and the government's new dietary guidelines commanding Americans to eat real food, ideally cooked from scratch, it's easy to look at your beloved morning bagel with cream cheese and see only a minefield of ultra-processing and refined carbs. So, your morning bagel with cream cheese, first of all, should not even be a meal. It's kind of a meal for peasants, because grains, they were never fed to nobles, they're only fed to really peasants. It is a minefield of ultra-processing and refined carbs. You do not need exogenous amounts of carbohydrates, and that's the main problem with today's diets, is they have an exogenous amount of carbohydrates and fats. And I'd say probably the best thing in this bagel with cream cheese is the cream cheese. It has dairy in it, so it has some protein, has some minerals, has some B vitamins as well. That's probably the best thing you're going to get out of a bagel with cream cheese, since there's so much glyphosate and other crap. But I'm not really here to talk about the nutrition. I'm here to debate this kind of article. Before you hurl that bagel into the trash, consider that it represents much that is good about our food system. It is affordable, convenient, and nutritious, okay? First of all, it is affordable, kind of. It is convenient, and it is not nutritious. So the only thing nutritious about that is the cream cheese. It could be technically called affordable, but in reality, it's not. If you look at the nutrients per dollar, it's horrible. Let's compare liver. Like in Argentina, I could get liver for $1. I could get a kilo of liver for $1, and that's a kilo of liver is more nutrients than the normal person gets in an entire week. To say that that's not a good investment is extremely flawed, and if anything, that's actually more affordable because it has more fat-soluble vitamins, more rare vitamins that you can't get in any other types of food. Here it's called bad or not ideal or something, when in reality it is probably the most ideal thing. So to say that, it's affordable, technically it's not. Dollar per vitamin, $1 per microgram of vitamin, or whatever it is, technically it's not actually affordable. It's affordable to fill you up. They won't actually fill you, though. They're big volumes of things, but they won't actually fill you. So I actually disagree with the affordable. It is convenient, that's for sure, which kind of sucks because I think other foods should be more convenient. It's not nutritious. So two of these things are wrong already. Okay. Virtually all the food we eat, junk and vegetables alike. Okay, so it's implying that vegetables are the opposite of junk. Vegetables should be grouped kind of with junk because the amount of pesticides that are sprayed on them, they don't have, 15 micronutrients that the human body needs, so they're kind of junk. You don't really need them. Some people do need them, some people don't, but anyways. It's part of an industrial system. Acknowledging the fact and embracing the system's scale, reliability, safety standards, and abundance is far better path to improving than chasing a fantasy of Edenic pre-modern food that never existed. It's saying that pre-modern food never existed, when literally saying pre-modern proves that it existed. Pre-modern food did exist. Chasing a fantasy. It's not a fantasy. So nobody's claiming it's a fantasy. This article is the only one claiming that it's a fantasy. Embracing the system's scale, reliability, safety standards. And by the way, the safety standards are actually pretty bad, since there's a lot of food outbreaks, a lot of horse shit, and there's a lot of food dyes and stuff that literally makes your kids retarded that is put into the food. So I don't know about the safety standards, because it's literally destroying our health at abundance. So it's saying that because junk food's abundant and because grains are abundant, we should eat them. That's not true. Your morning bagel is in fact a small miracle, no it's not, made possible by conventional mass-produced and enriched ingredients. Made possible. So basically, you should be grateful for your peasant bagel because we made it for you, and you need to be enslaved. Mass-produced. It's not special. It's not for you, and enriched ingredients. So basically, these things need to be processed to actually be edible. Like, you can't just eat flour and survive, right? Like flour and salt. Salt, I wouldn't say it's that bad, but it does give you problems. At the turn of the 20th century, when our great-great-grandparents had no choice but to eat real food, malnutrition was rampant. I honestly would say our great-great-grandparents had better nutrition than us, but they didn't have perfect nutrition, because they still had grains, they still had bread, and a lot of other things that we weren't adapted to. So I don't think it was absolutely perfect nutrition, and they still ate a lot of vegetables, and they still were technically peasants. So it's saying malnutrition was rampant. And the reason malnutrition was rampant is because there wasn't enough meat for everybody. They saved it for the rich people, right? And now we have enough meat for everybody, or mostly, or we could if we just replace the grains with nutritious meat. Malnutrition was rampant. Anemia was common. Again, this is just, oh my god, dude. This is because they were fed grains, bro. Like, holy shit. And we're in a modern time now, so we don't need to be fed grains. No choice but to eat real food. Real food's not grains. That's fucking processed bullshit. As was iodine deficiency. Iodine deficiency, you need seafood, which would cause a disfiguring, swelling of the thyroid gland known as goiter. Goiter. Okay. In one Michigan county on the eve of World War I, nearly a third of potential army recruits were rejected because of such thyroid problems. Wait a minute, so you don't think the soldiers could have like a problem because they were eating grains? They were eating things that were deficient in iodine. So they weren't eating any seafood because seafood was saved for the rich. You don't need iodine in salt. So it says enrichment was such as the addition of iron to wheat, flour, and iodine to salt. Great. That's great. If you're eating grains, that's great. Enrich it all you like. Enrich this, enrich that. Hell, put B12 in the bread. Oh, that's so great. Yay, you're eating grains, but you're just getting enough just to survive, not have horrible diseases, right? So this is claiming that because they were eating real food, which is, they were eating basically peasant diets, they weren't eating enough beef, they weren't eating enough meat, and that's exactly why they had these problems. And easier access to grain and fresh produce made possible by productive industrial farming. Yes, industrial farming is very productive for profits, not for health. Very productive for profits. And the thing is, if you actually look at the studies, regenerative farms, their carbon sinks, so they basically take carbon from the atmosphere and keep it somewhere, keep it in the soil, keep it in the trees, keep it in everything, and they actually have around the same profits overall over time. If you're doing industrial farming, you're scraping the topsoil and you're losing lots of nutrients. So that's why they need to do enrichment. They need to do enrichment because they're destroying the earth and they have no more excuse to do it. So obviously they do get rich over this, and then they can just buy more land, which is stupid. They should not be able to buy more land after they just destroyed the plot they had, right? Perhaps you want a slice of tomato on that bagel. If it's January on the East Coast, it won't be local. Your tomato will come from Florida, or more likely Mexico, where it will have been grown on high-yield farm using conventional fertilizers and pesticides. Want it organic? It will take industrial supply chains to get it to you. Shunning those global supply chains in favor of sparse and often more expensive local and seasonal alternatives is likely to result in everyone eating less produce. Perhaps you want a slice of tomato on that bagel? No, the bagel's fucking deficient. It's peasant food. Nobody wants bagels. You want a slice of tomato on it? No. Tomato has basically nothing. So basically, it's saying that if you're supporting regenerative farms and expensive local and seasonal alternatives, which will actually benefit your health, it'll result in everyone eating less produce. Okay. First of all, you should only eat what's in your area. And if you can't do it, then you shouldn't live there. It's really just that simple. It's saying that you need to use conventional fertilizers and pesticides across overseas, right? Why do you? It's because they want high yield. So these people have no morals, and they just want to do whatever they can to get as much money as possible. It's not about your health. It's about money. They want high yield farms. They want to feed everybody, which is just not true. You can feed everybody through perfectly good local and seasonal alternatives like everybody's been eating for thousands and thousands of years. Okay, so it's not been a problem now. It's only been a problem now because there's cities, because there's urban places that don't have a single tree around, right? In the long term, high yield farm using these pesticides and whatever will do more damage to the earth. They're basically just trying to guilt you and saying that the poor can't eat because you're doing something good for your health, right? Adding fruit will make your breakfast even healthier. That's not true. That's just not a fact. Hasn't been proven. Not causal at all. Ideally, it depends on your environment, but you shouldn't be eating non-local fruit, but okay. Here too, modern food technology can help. Half a century of worry, often about the safety of genetically modified organisms or GMOs, often derived as frankenfoods, has not yielded a shred of compelling evidence that they endanger human health. Well, I do have to admit, I didn't do that much research into GMOs, so I don't really know much about the GMO topic. One thing I know is I definitely wouldn't eat something that has its DNA, basically its life essence altered by a lab. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't eat something that is not natural at all. The genetically modified rainbow papaya, which is resistant to the wing spot virus, saved Hawaii's papaya crop. It's cool that it reduces food waste and it's resistant to a virus and whatever, but to say that that is needed and that's why we should genetically modify other things is very, very flawed. So I think you should be very careful when you genetically modify, and I don't think we should genetically modify at all, because if you look at the most efficient things in nature, it's cows, it's sheep, it's other ruminant animals that can recycle food waste. I was in Argentina and I saw sheep roaming the mountainsides, and they would go up to these natural apple trees. I would eat from these same apple trees, right? And they had no pesticides, whatever, and they would drop down and then the apples would rot pretty quickly, right? Obviously a human wouldn't eat that. That's disgusting. But a sheep would. So the sheeps go around, they eat this, and they turn it into sheep meat. They turn it into lamb. They turn it into goat. They turn it into meat that we can eat, that is extremely nutritious. So they turn these useless plant foods like apples into nutritious foods like sheep, lamb, things like this. So, you know, it says reducing food waste, but instead you should just feed it to the cows or things that are naturally in that area. And I think that's great. It's true that the bagel's cream cheese made velvety with carob bean gum and shelf-stable and mold-free potassium sorbate is considered ultra-processed. Yes, you do not want carob bean gum. These gums are pretty bad for you. Like xanthan gum is shown to destroy your gut lining. Potassium sorbate, I haven't done much into that. I don't know if that's bad or not. Anything really ultra-processed and is made to stay on the shelf is not really going to be good for you. If you look at everything we ate throughout history, it's not anything that's shelf-stable. It needs to be something that can decompose. We ate things that could decompose, so we could decompose them inside of ourselves and actually get the nutrients. If your food is not decomposing like McDonald's, I would run away. I think that's common sense. But the idea that ultra-processed foods are categorically unhealthy is an oversimplification. Not really. They are kind of categorically unhealthy. Avoiding them is your best choice in health, honestly. Because almost every single ultra-processed food is horrible for you. Like, there's very, very few that are decent or great. Everything that's shelf-stable is toxic. I would never eat that. While eating too many highly processed sugary and fatty foods, yes, is bad for you. It is very bad for you because it activates your Randle cycle. And especially when you mix something like a processed sugar, like let's say high fructose corn syrup with seed oils, you're basically just creating cancer because you're combining sugary and fatty foods. That basically makes you store fat. Your mitochondria are gonna suffer. So yeah, research has also shown that many ultra-processed foods such as yogurt, whole grain bread, or ready-to-eat plant-based burgers are not linked to worse outcomes and may be even beneficial. Again, okay, so it's saying may. So again, may is not studying, but I bet you money this study is only correlative, not causative. It's not causative data. Yogurt is probably the most nutritious out of this whole list, right? Whole grain bread, I would say that's horrible because it has more fiber, so I'd say that's actually worse. And ready-to-eat plant-based burgers filled with basically seed oils. Basically seed oils, soy, no good protein, nothing in there. Just eat normal burgers and you'll be good because you'll actually get everything you need. So again, linked to worse health outcomes basically just means, and it said may. So again, none of this is certain, so it's basically just junk data, and I wouldn't listen to anybody that says may or anybody that says linked. You can see very obviously where the Bill Gates influences come from, how much meat we eat. Ooh, that's interesting, right? So is a major driver of climate change. Okay, I can't do this anymore. Yeah, this kind of pisses me off. Do you know why? Because these people want to say that meat is a major driver of climate change. Is it really major? Or is your industrial farming that farms soy, corn, wheat, all these other things, and not just that, but the amount of cars and deforestation. The deforestation is not for cows. 2/3 of the world's agricultural land is unusable for growing crops. Guess what cows and ruminants can do? They can use that land. This is horrible. Absolutely horrible. What about airlines? What about cars? What about industrial factories? What about industrial agriculture? This argument right here is horrible. Food landscapes dominated by fast food joints and grocery store shelves lined with colorful boxes of junk food have led to widespread heart disease, obesity, and diabetes. Nearly 14% of American households are food insecure. Junk food is ultra-processed food, and it's saying it's I don't get why this is just literally proving its own argument wrong. Why is this part even in here? Okay, nearly 14% of American households are food insecure. That's called poverty. And most of these people are actually frauding, if anything, which is kind of sad. Like, half of them are frauding and actually taking away from the people that need to fraud, which is really sad. It's very obvious that ultra-processed foods cause heart disease, obesity, and diabetes, and other major problems. And I think we spend like $1.4 trillion annually treating these diseases, especially brain diseases. American households are food insecure, but putting colorful boxes of junk food is not going to help them. Getting them sick is also not going to help them. But dumping industrial food from your plate would do little to change for the better, and in some cases would actually make it worse. Okay, let's prove that. Food that is local, organic, and low-tech is vastly more expensive than food grown through conventional methods. Okay, so we're not saying low-tech, we're saying no pesticide. We're not saying low-tech. You can do very high-tech. There's hydraulic farm, I don't know what they're called, but basically they're farms that are sideways, vertical farms. Those are great if you want plants and whatever, and you can control for everything in there. I don't think that most of the stuff is nutritious. I think you should move back to the land. We're not saying you should farm low tech for the masses, but you definitely shouldn't spray pesticides, and you should feed your cows organic, non-pesticide sprayed things. There's little evidence that it is healthier. There's insane evidence that it is healthier in literally every single way. And when it comes to environmental impact, it matters much more what is produced than how it is produced. Let me guess, it's gonna go on about like tofu or some soybeans or something. Oh my god. I didn't even look at that part, guys. I didn't even look at that part, and I predicted the tofu part, guys. Okay, that's amazing. When it comes to environmental impact, no matter what type of soy farm you do versus what type of cow farming you do regeneratively, the cow farming is going to be way better. Now, obviously, industrial farming is not good, but if you do regenerative cattle, restores environments, carbon negative, and it's going to be way better than tofu in any way. So it's not going to have a smaller ecological impact. Bro, beef has nutrition. Beef has B12. It has fat-soluble vitamins in the fat. It has a perfect amount of omega-3 to omega-6. It has creatine, carnitine, taurine, basically any amino acid that you need. Tofu does not have that. They're basically saying tofu is better than beef because it has a smaller ecological impact. It doesn't. And also that it has more, quote, nutrients, because that's what these health experts have told you. That is not true either. Tofu, the only thing that's even comparable with beef and tofu is the protein. That's even close. And it's not even close, really. But that's the only thing they have in common. Beef has every single amino acid you need. Beef has almost every single vitamin you need. Tofu does not have any of that. Even if beef had no protein, it's actually a better option than tofu. Beef fat is a better option than tofu. A beef bone is better than tofu. That's how trash tofu is. Not only that, but it also makes you estrogenic as hell. That holds true even if the tofu comes from soybeans grown on giant farms using pesticides and the beef is grass-fed and organic. No, regenerative. So organic doesn't mean anything. Probably organic pesticides. Grass-fed's great, but it needs to be grass-fed, grass-finished, and it needs to be regenerative. And it's actually going to be better because it's carbon negative. This is stupid, and tofu provides no nutrition. So it may fill you, but if the people are deficient and they have health problems, then maybe you should have beef over tofu because beef doesn't have deficiencies in micronutrients and macronutrients, right? You should have beef because in the long term, beef wins. Many Americans simply don't want or don't have the time to cook at all their fruits from scratch. You don't need to cook your fruits from scratch. Guess what? You can eat your beef raw. You can eat your meat raw. If you eat your grains raw, you're gonna die. So just eat your meat raw, guys. Come on. So they don't want to cook their food from scratch, a task that involves unpaid labor and tends to fall disproportionately on women. So basically, they're just victimizing women, falling disproportionately on women. I think it's because women are good at cooking. Shouldn't that be like a thing that women go, yay, we're good at cooking? I don't see why that's not a flex for women. I don't get why they're trying to victimize women here. They don't need that. There are plenty of pre-made options you can grab that are just as nutritious as the fresh cooked version. Okay, let's see what these nutritiously fresh cooked versions of this. Starbucks egg white bites. Are you kidding me? So basically, you're taking away the yolks. Great. Trader Joe's palak paneer or frozen microwavable. I bet you money that this has seed oils in it. Money. I bet you it has seed oils. Oh my god. I totally bet you it has seed oils. And also this probably has seed oils as well. Or frozen microwavable vegetables. Trash. Absolutely garbage. Never eat, especially microwavable vegetables. Like, no nutrients at all. No micronutrients. Hell, that's horrible. We know what the problems with the American diet are. Okay, let's see what you got, Paul Rosenberg and fucking Bill Gates Institute, man. People need less red meat, fat, sugar, and more vegetables, fruits, legumes, and grains. Yeah, guys, come on. Let's keep going with the dietary guidelines we had since the 1960s, and our heart attack rates have gone up like crazy, man. Let's eat that. Good job, Paul Rosenberg. Let's go, Bill Gates. Good job, good job. Okay, let's debunk every single part of this instead of crashing out. People need less red meat. No, they don't. That's all correlative studies, and they're all crap. They're barely anything. Health user bias, and it's not been proven causatively. If anything, if you look at it by itself, there's nothing in red meat that is inherently bad other than the AGEs, heterocyclamines, and polycyclic hydrocarbons, right? If you cook it. But if you eat it raw, there's nothing against red meat. Red meat's what we eat for thousands of years, right? Fat, blaming fat for everything. I'm pretty sure it's blaming saturated fat. Saturated fat's good for you. They've actually shown that LDL, the higher LDL you have, the longer you live, kind of against everything that people have said for the last 60, 70 years, right? So we do need less sugar, especially mixing fat and sugar will make you fat, and seed oils and like high fructose corn syrup is horrible. So don't consume seed oils. Consume saturated fat, omega-3s from fish, not from grains. Those are the two fats you need. And monounsaturated also comes with saturated fat and animal fat, right? But don't mix it with sugar, especially. And more vegetables. We do not need more vegetables. Vegetables are deficient in everything. They have anti-nutrients. They're covered in pesticides, so no, don't eat them. Fruits are also covered in pesticides. They're full of sugar. So if you're combining fat and sugar, that's going to be a problem. Now, I still do eat fruit. I'm not saying, oh, you shouldn't eat fruits like some of these people, but fruits are definitely, you should definitely be careful with fruits because they can be a problem. Legumes, total garbage. Never eat this. This is probably one of the worst out of the list. And grains, same thing as legumes almost. Trash. Absolute garbage. Never eat these things. They're peasant foods. If you look at throughout history, what the peasants ate, it was legumes, grains, nuts, seeds, vegetables. That's what they ate. They barely got any access to meat. If you look at poor Indians, they ate those things. If you look at poor Japanese, they ate those things. The rich people, they got the meat, they got the dairy, they got the fish, everything, right? So, no. People need more red meat, more fat, less sugar, less vegetables, less fruit, less legumes, and less grains. We just need to eat more animal foods overall, right? Consumers should make better choices when they can and eat less of the obvious junk. Very true. And we should use the best delivery mechanism we have, the industrial food system. No, we shouldn't use the industrial food system. Now, we can use a delivery system. That's very cool. But we should also eat local as much as we possibly can, because if we don't eat local, you're gonna have problems like deuterium. And you should eat locally and seasonally because you shouldn't eat fruit in the winter. You're gonna be destroying your mitochondria. Okay, to get them more of the good. It's implying that good can be like transported. Like, yes, meat can be transported, but it should be made in your own home country. Meat can be made everywhere in the world. Hell, like even if you're in Morocco, they still have goats there. They still have camel, right? So you can get your own meat or dairy anywhere, really. That means investing in the development of better food technologies that can be used to transform nutritious whole foods into even more nutritious processed and prepared foods. This should include embracing plant-based meat alternatives and supporting the development of cellular agriculture. By the way, plant-based meat is horrible. This is exactly what Bill Gates is preaching. This is exactly what the elites, the top people in society, are preaching to you. They're not going to eat plant-based meat. None of them eat plant-based meat. They all eat the meat that comes from their own farms. And guess what? Those farms? Organic, pesticide-free, grass-fed, everything. And by the way, lab-grown meat has been proven. There is no way it works, ever. ever, ever. There's no way that lab-grown meat can overtake beef. There's no way. It cannot feed the entire planet. The reason for this is because the cow is the optimized structure in nature. If you try to go against that, you're gonna have problems. It is the perfectly optimized food source. It has every single vitamin and mineral we need. It has every single fat we need. It's perfect. Red meat is absolutely perfect. Meat in general is really perfect for the human body, right? So to say you can replicate that in the lab is not going to be true. And it's been proven. It's extremely inefficient. It's never going to feed the world. There's a video, I might link it in the bottom. What I've learned, I love that guy's channel. Maybe we should do an interview, but he basically talks about why lab-grown meats are absolutely disgustingly horrible and why it will never work. Agriculture subsidies should be revised to encourage the production of fresh, nutritious foods for human consumption, not soy or corn for animal feed and ethanol. We should support more generous SNAP benefits to get good food to those facing food insecurity. For animal feed and ethanol. Yeah, first of all, this stuff shouldn't be animal feed, but the thing is, animals are actually eating this and doing better for the environment than wasting it. So this is the problem, and this is the solution, and yet the animals are getting the blame. Oh, it's so stupid. We're wasting so much money and water on crops and land on crops, especially fresh nutritious. I don't know why it says fresh nutritious food. It probably means more vegetables, which are not fresh nutritious food, right? We should support more generous SNAP benefits to get good food to those facing food insecurity. I think so too, but if we keep feeding them vegetables and we keep giving them SNAP benefits, which most of them are actually frauding, which is kind of sad because the people who need it don't get it, and we should feed them nutritious food, which is what actually RFK is working towards, and you're against. I can see very well. You're sponsored by Bill Gates and a bunch of other food companies, very obviously. Yeah. Policies like taxes on sugar drinks and removing soda machines from school discourage unhealthy habits. Good policies like tax. Yep. Amazing. They should be banned, if anything. They should be banned. Soda machines should not exist. We should carefully regulate food corporations and improve nutrition labeling and fully fund and staff the federal agencies we rely upon to make sure the food supply is safe. Yes, I think we should carefully regulate food corporations. I don't think food corporations should exist. I think power to the people should come back. It's actually kind of crazy. I want to let you in on something. That in the US, if you're a farm and you slaughter a cow, you cannot sell the meat to your neighbor. You're not legally allowed. You can be arrested. You have to go to an FDA slaughterhouse. That's ridiculous. That's how much control the government has over the average person, the average farmer, right? So this is absolutely horrible. And I think that's true. We should regulate food corporations. The policy tools exist to minimize the harm and maximize the benefits of a system that provides food, much of it healthy in abundance. Much of it is not healthy. Much of it is actually horrible. Much of it is ultra-processed food, ultra-processed grain slop that humans don't need. It fills you up, but it doesn't actually provide any micronutrients, and that's why we have people who have stunted growth, bad jaw lines, bad bone structure, everything, right? These people have a flawed view of healthiness. They think that vegetables are the key to healthiness, when if you look at them, they have absolutely no micronutrients. They're missing really everything you need, and if they do have something, it's in a worse form. So like K1, K2, it's like totally different. But first, we need to stop demonizing industrial food and instead think about how to make it better. No, we need to keep demonizing industrial food. If anything, we're not demonizing it enough. The original title for the article was Industrial Ultra-Processed Food is Fine, which is not fine. It's not good for you. It's not good for people. It destroys people's lives. It causes lots of spending, lots of horrible problems in the world, and to say that it's fine is horrible, and it's just rage bait. And instead, think about how to make it better. That's true, but it's not true, because we need to get rid of industrial food corporations, especially people at the Breakthrough Institute, people like Bill Gates, or going to these underdeveloped countries and going there and making grain farms, making any farm they really want. It's all useless. It's all to make money. I'm pretty sure Bill Gates right now is going to Africa. He's starting a big African farm, and he has a lot of corporations there, right? They're gonna go to these countries. Oh, wow, cool. A billionaire is coming, or someone rich is coming to farm on my land. That's great. That's amazing, right? And this is perfectly good farmland that can be used for cows. Perfectly good farmland that can be used for nutritious something. This article right here, these people, they're funded by Bill Gates. They're funded by these billionaires at these institutes, and I don't like it at all, and I think you guys should break free, and hopefully that video helped you. If you see something like this, don't believe it, because these people don't actually want good health for you. They don't want to save the world. You know, maybe they don't want to destroy the planet, but they don't care about it. They think they care, but they don't care. And in reality, they really know what's gonna happen. Don't fall for these guys. They want to make money. They do not care about your health, and that's all I can say. So if you guys like this video, like and subscribe, and go check out my shorts as well. Maybe check out a couple of my other videos, and peace out. Hopefully, you know, that kind of spiked my cortisol, but see you guys.